There's this stereotype around creative people that I've always been really annoyed by. It's a stereotype that creative people are sort of, for lack of a better term, super, I guess ADHD coded. You could use the term. There's this idea that like, if you're a creative person, you're always going to be jumping around a lot, right? That you're never going to be able to focus on one thing. That's always going to be from boom, 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 on to the next, right? And that like, there's kind of multiple variations of it. There's the idea that sometimes creative people won't get anything done because they're just always going boom, boom, boom. Some creative people even embrace this idea, and I think that that's like a worse thing to do. I think that that's just like, it's not how that works. There's also the equally, in my opinion, as harmful stereotype that creative people who are geniuses are always jumping from thing to thing, and their mind's too crazy. They can't focus on one thing. One, you guys know, if you've been watching for any duration of time, I hate any stereotype that places creative people in some special class, whether it's above or below or next to another group of people, just because I don't think creative people are a special class. I think that everybody is a creative person. They maybe just haven't had the opportunity to be one yet, you know? I don't like the idea that creative people are like, and I don't like the idea that they're anything special, to be honest, 100%. And that comes from me, who many would deem to be a creative person, right? I like this idea even less, though, because perhaps like all the, I guess maybe because it's based in truth a little bit, you know? There are a lot of people that are like that. Once again, creative people like to embrace that idea too and almost romanticize their inability to finish something, right? But I think it comes from a very real place, right? It comes from very different mediums being able to express very different things, right? So let's say you have an emotion that you want to express, that you kind of comes to you in the form of a sound. You're going to take that to a song. You're going to make music. Let's say you have an emotion that you want to express that comes to you in the form of a very complex philosophical idea, right? Maybe that emotion will be expressed in a novel, right? I mean, that's what many of the best novels do, I think. If you read them from the perspective of like what ideas is trying to get across, oftentimes they're some of the most complex webs of stories that are all gearing up to get a certain idea across that like no other sort of philosophy could, right? No direct treatise could ever do. Prime example, this is Albert Camus with The Stranger, right? His philosophy, of course, he has the myth of Sisyphus, where he talks about absurdism too, but most agree, myself included, that The Stranger conveys this philosophy way better, right? Sometimes a story is what you need, because it's the most cliche thing that not every truth is going to be in a book somewhere, right? In terms of like written down. Sometimes you need a story that's so real it could be experienced, and that's the form in which truth would come, right? It's a bit of a side tangent, but the point here is that different moments of your thoughts will come to you in different ways, right? And just in a very similar vein to how somebody who is not in this creative person, group, will have a different emotion one day or another, and because of that, maybe they dress differently, you know? Maybe they talk to their friends differently. These are all similarly creative things that happen. Somebody who's just predisposed to, when they have an emotion, they just take it to art and make art out of that emotion. It makes perfect sense, actually, that they're going to be jumping around from thing to thing all the time, you know? Like, people aren't static at all. This is something we all understand. But for some reason, it gets very messy when you start talking about creative people in this way, right? People aren't static, and when you have a different thing to say, you're going to say it in a different way. Just like if you're predisposed to, when you have a different emotion, taking it into some piece of art of some sort, you are going to express that in a different way, in a different medium than you would any other day. This makes perfect sense to me, right? So I think that like one of the reasons that people embrace this idea is because I think medium is something in the arts that is not very, I don't want to refer to medium as a touchy subject, but it's definitely a less explored one, right? When you tell somebody that inherently something like a song is going to be worse at storytelling than a comic book, people are very quick to be like, well, look at these examples, and they'll list examples and play sort of an exception game, right? and this is very true, there are exceptions to every rule, but I don't think people like to discuss it for that reason. But I think so many artists could benefit so much more from really thinking deeply and maybe even reflecting on their own work about what mediums they tend to express things in and what form these expressions take, right? I don't know any artists, like people that are really consider themselves into the arts, that don't do multiple things, right? I think that's just normal, right? I paint, I write, and you know, that's like a very normal thing, and most artists are like that, right? That's why I hate too. This is another pet peeve. We're just gonna do pet peeves today, I guess. Whenever like a new artist breaks onto the scene, right, and there's like a million think pieces written about them with like, how did this new musician paint a painting and record their album at the same time? And it's like, that's not, like, everybody does that. Like everybody, that's a very normal thing. It's another big pet peeve of mine right there. But the point is, right, past all this, I think if you sit down and you look at your own work, don't like, you know, search up, don't do a Google on what mediums best express which emotions. And don't listen to me either. I mean, throughout this video, I've listed multiple examples of like, yeah, if you want to do this, maybe you would do this medium. If you want to do this, maybe you do that one. Don't listen to me. I'm just, you know, some random guy. This is how I found that emotions can best be expressed. But there is a very real idea where you'll go, okay, you know, maybe comic books have more storytelling capabilities because they have pictures and words that are, you know, in panels. But I think I can tell stories better in songs. That's a real thing right there. That's, you know, oftentimes it's going to be how that works. Different people have different things that work for them, right? And I have no interest in trying to dictate what mediums are good or bad for anyone at all, right? Explore through your own work, through your own history of what you've made, where you think you express which emotions best. I think it's a process of self-reflection, of deep self-reflection, I think, looking at over time how you've expressed things from when you were a kid. It's probably, honestly, if you've worked from when you were a kid, that's probably even better, because, you know, you weren't thinking about anything back then. You were just doing. You know, naturally, what are you inclined to do? And I think, I'm not saying you need to do this as some guide, right? I think it's even bad to develop it as a guide, right? Because it's easy to look at this and go, okay, whenever I'm sad, I tend to write a poem. So from now on, when I'm sad, I'm going to write a poem. I don't think that's the right thing to do either, because you know, just as you write poems because you're not a static person, one day you won't write poems because you're not a static person. That's normal. That's okay, right? I think it's important to understand, like, nothing that like, this is how this tends to work, but this might work in another way, right? You're not looking in this, as much as it is, I believe, a process of self-reflection. I don't think you're looking for lessons about yourself in these pieces of art. I think you're looking for lessons about the mediums in these pieces of art and how you tend to use these mediums. Could that be considered a lesson about yourself? Maybe, I don't know. You know, that's for you to decide, I guess. But the fact remains here that, hold on, I'm really scared of getting this wash everywhere. I believe that the fact still remains that there is no one medium that works 100% of the time for everyone. If you're somebody who just constantly, you know, if when something happens to you, your first impulse is to go to your journal or go to your keyboard and write a song, I think that to understand those is the same thing, is useful, I suppose, right? Because to an extent, I guess you could say they are, right? They're both you just expressing an emotion when you have one. It's just a habit at a point, right? But to treat them as the same activity, treat them as the same medium, is, I think, bad because we don't understand things in the same medium. Recently, I've done this, right? And that's one of the inspirations behind this video. I've done this through getting back into some writing that I'm putting out there, right? I want to, I've been having, like, I really like coming here and doing these every day. They help me hammer out my thoughts quite a bit on things. But past that too, I do, at times, when it comes to something more complex, right? Like the state of the world, for example, something like that, that I'm less, I don't know, it's harder to just yap about and kind of come to any sort of sensible idea on. I started writing down things, right? Trying to get a grip of my thoughts. There's this great quote I love that's like, when you have a complicated math problem to do, you, as you should, understand that you should write it down, because there's no way that you are going to be able to take this complicated math problem and just understand it in your head, right? And, you know, they go on to say, your thoughts that you have on a daily basis are so much more complicated than any math problem. and not writing them down is to not figure them out, to never solve them, right? Don't know if I 100% agree with that. I do think you can figure out your thoughts through dialogues and conversations and all these other things. You know, I'm not going to say I view this quote as dogma, but I think it's very good. And I think when you are struggling to understand something, or for me, understand my perspective on the world, I do think that it's very useful to write it down. So, in that vein, I've started writing on Substack. I've named it The Precipice because I feel we're at the precipice of a lot of different things. With AI, with declining democracy. I had more in the description on Substack that you should go check out. No, but I feel that we're at the precipice of many different things, and I think that at this time, it's harder to understand these things than ever. And it feels like this is not an emotion I think I'm alone in. It feels like we're going somewhere, but it's so hard to discern where, right? And I've wanted to write I want to write about that for a long time for that reason. And that's what I'm doing. I also have been looking for a way, transparently, the show's not the cheapest thing on earth to run. I've started to reuse canvases here and there where I can, or if there's a canvas that's like been unfinished, you've, I'm sure, seen in many of these videos me use it. But it's still, you know, paints cost money and all that stuff. And I've wanted a way for you guys to support the show, but I don't want to like, I think when you put money into anything, because I don't want to like, this isn't meant to be a for-profit thing at all. Like I'm doing this because I want to do it, right? And I think when you try and monetize anything in that regard, it sort of like ruins a little bit of it. It tends to, at least, you know, I think if you look at stuff. So I don't want to do like, a lot of people are like, oh, do live shows, do a Patreon, do Discords or stuff like that. And I don't know, none of those things feel natural. And honestly, it's just not where I'm at right now. Maybe someday it will be. And, you know, everybody will love that, and it'll be really great for all of us, but I'm not gonna lie and compromise what's going on here for some other thing. A Substack, though, is something I've been wanting to do, and it's another place where if you like these videos and you want to see my thoughts better formatted and just better, to be honest, if you like the talking portion of these videos a lot, go check it out over there. It's free if you want to subscribe, or you can support the show by doing a $5 a month option. Also, because I've had people reach out and ask me for ways to support the show, if you don't want to read them, but just want to support the show, that's where you can do it. You know, I think it's better because it offers something else that's like in line with what's going on here, rather than just being like, yeah, this is a thing you can just give me money for. But yeah, that's where I'm at with that. So go check that out if you guys are so inclined. There's a link in the description to a link tree where you can find that. Until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This is Paint Talk episode 318. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.